Hi, it's Joey, and today I'm going to be watching Batwoman, Season 3, Episode 11, Broken Toys. I am stressed. I'm happy that we have Mary back, but I'm stressed at what she's going to be going through. I'm stressed because Marcus is around, and the city's going to turn on Batwoman, and things are just generally stressful. A reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon, and let's go! What's there? Is it pillows, or has he killed someone?
Him being gone.
How did he manage to get that?
Behind.
So this is going wonderfully. You're not okay,
It's all my
sweetheart.
fault. We will get this cleaned up.
No,
as soon
it's
as we find
not.
Marcus.
I helped Pamela do this. I killed that man. I told Marcus who you were.
You were not in control of yourself when you did those things.
It's okay.
No, it's not.
Because this is how you
Tell
feel.
everyone who you are.
Mary, if that was who you really are, if it was your choice, you wouldn't be feeling this regret because you didn't feel it at the time. It was like an alternate version of you. Mary, you change yourself up in order to not do it. That is the thing that counts.
All of our lives in danger.
But I know why she's
So how
feeling
many
like
more
this. It's
people are
because
gonna
she's
get
so
hurt
good and
because of me?
kind.
No. That wasn't you. That
Mhm.
was the infection. You understand?
Exactly.
Me? Listen to me.
You change yourself up.
You are Dr. Mary Hamilton.
Mhm.
You have saved so many
I'm so
lives,
glad she has
Mary.
Ryan.
What about Marcus?
I know, but
How
that
are we
wasn't
gonna
you.
stop
But
him?
we do need to stop him, that's right.
We are gonna get
My
him
heart
to
is
a blizzard
breaking.
fixed, and I can't fix it.
No, I mean my dad
Oh,
was
Mary still feels like she's not got a place here. You do, my darling.
Meet Kiki Roulette, the Joker's toy.
Why is Alice not currently arrested?
One who takes pride in her work. There is if her work killed people.
Mhm.
Hundreds of people.
Okay, so how do we find her?
Well, that's the problem. When the Joker...
Just literally handcuff her to a table and call the police.
Doctor should probably be involved.
Yeah. Mary, you're gonna be fine.
Alice, go with her.
Oh, why me?
Yeah, why her?
Yes, why
Because
her?
As far as Marcus knows, Alice and Mary are still bad enemies, which means he won't be targeting them. You two, on the other hand, are still in his
True.
crosshairs.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's go back to the.
While I try to track down Marcus.
So I can understand the reasoning here. A, we don't want Mary to go alone, and Alice has shown a concern for Mary, so she probably will look out for her in this. I get that. I don't think this is a weird decision, but I still think, oh, directed by Cameron Johnson. Yeah, I knew he was directing one coming up, but I didn't realise it was this one. Alice is just being, they treat her like she's a joke, or like, oh, it's not that bad what she did. And it just is. She's the one responsible for what happened to Mary, almost more than Poison Ivy, because at least Pamela didn't do that to Mary intentionally. Alice did. The pain Mary feels right now, Alice caused.
We have bigger problems.
Is that what we are? A problem?
You know what I mean.
Actually, that's the
She's
whole point.
overwhelmed
I don't
right
know.
now.
You won't tell me.
But if Batwoman won't take responsibility, I guess I'll have to.
Jada needs to take responsibility for this.
And I will pour millions of dollars into improving this notorious asylum so that the truly ill among us, like Batwoman, can at last.
The idea
Professional help
of Arkham being fixed and helped is important. But him doing it...
Scrubbed all that.
There must be some proof, somewhere.
The video of him killing his father.
Yeah. And I think Jada's sitting on it. She told me she had
the caged animal to behave.
We're not talking about stray dogs here.
It's so hard though, because they shouldn't be allowed to just be set free. But they shouldn't be treated like this.
Serial murder.
Does it ever get easier? Living with the things you've done.
Alice isn't.
Don't say it's not my fault.
Oh, that's what the Bat Team's been telling you. Yeah.
It isn't her
I think you're
fault.
too emotionally fragile to handle the truth.
But it isn't her fault. But it's Alice's fault.
It's totally your fault.
Like, yes, Mary has to take a degree of accountability because she still made those decisions. It wasn't like somebody else took control of her body. But if somebody goes in and alters your brain so that your thinking goes totally differently, it is no longer your fault. Like, it's like if somebody brainwashes you. That is what happened to Mary, essentially, the closest we have in the real world. And then because you were brainwashed against your will, you kill someone. The person that brainwashed you did it, and you just became the gun or the knife in their hand. Alice watched Mary succumb to the brainwashing and allowed it to happen. So yeah, I think it's true that Mary is suffering and struggling, and she does need someone to acknowledge that how she's feeling is valid, and that the pain she is carrying, it's okay for her to feel that way. And I do think she still needs reminders that it wasn't her fault, because it wasn't her fault. It's not like she said, "Lo, I'm going to go become Poison Ivy, that'd be fun." It was 100% against her will. She fucking chained herself up rather than to go through it. And then Alice manipulated everything. Alice is more guilty than Mary is. So if anyone here should be feeling remorse, it is Alice. And I hate that the way that this situation is going is not Alice being like, "You've asked me if I ever feel remorse. Fuck, maybe I should feel remorse." It's Alice being like, "No, I'm just the wise, wonderful, perfect Alice who really cares about you. And we all should pretend that she's never done anything wrong because she's funny."
So what do I do now?
You invent a fantasy world and pretend it never
All of your
happened.
feelings, and then poof, all those icky notes.
But that is not healthy or who Mary is.
At least that's what.
I'm not a sociopath.
Yes, Alice. Wake up.
Batwoman shouldn't have provoked him. First she abducts him, and then she loses him. No wonder
He's
they sent
a
him over the
murderer,
edge. I don't think
for
he needs much of a
goodness
push.
sake.
What if I did?
Then you need to use it. Now. Turn her over to the authorities.
He's a danger. You cannot. He's murdering people.
All these years is about.
He doesn't have an appointment.
Oh my god.
Fucking hell, yep. Here's Marcus's revenge. Jada, this is what you have sown. This, I mean, I get a mother's instinct to protect their child, but when he has murdered multiple people, you can't keep doing it. And I know the buzzer and we have it and there's a chance for him, but tell people that. She has copies of that. She's not stupid enough to only have one, right?
You can let my daughter go.
Calling her your daughter just makes him more vulnerable, makes her vulnerable in the situation. Calling her your daughter, but it's nice for Ryan to hear her say that, but...
Apparently, your son wants to give Batwoman a ringside seat to your demise. I'm not really sure.
Awkward.
What her dog is in this.
A jolt to a psychotic brain would reopen those neural pathways.
Okay, great.
Oh god, it's Alice
To
like,
fix it, they're all
test
back
me,
at the
test
physical
me.
Workshop.
You don't want to go back to his prison. And as someone who used to be a huge fan of yours.
The question with her and how culpable she is and what we do with her is whether she was like, "Oh hey Mr. Joker, you're a real fun guy, yeah, this is great, I'm happy to do it." If there was a gun to her head, if she was on mind-altering substances, you know, Mary I feel like is drawing some parallels here of like, oh, she wants to put the dark stuff she did behind her. But Mary is too good and kind and compassionate, and she's seeing herself in people like Alice, when Alice has had the chance to redeem herself and she just flips away from it every time. But Mary wasn't responsible.
12 steps.
Over a decade and a half to find ways to make up for the damage I've done.
Mary, you're not on her level, sweetheart. She did it consciously, and Alice is Alice now realizing there is a way out and maybe I could try it.
I mean, I didn't abandon a daughter to this city's brutally underfunded foster system, all the while perched comfortably atop a billion-dollar empire. But, you know,
True.
potato, potato.
You just murdered a lot of people.
No.
You
You
did.
just paid a doctor.
The doctor told me about a couple who were desperate to have a child of their own, and
So the doctor lied?
I feared
And you didn't
I thought
check?
you were being cared for by loving.
That does make you look at Jada and Ryan in a whole other light, but not Jada and Marcus. Ryan,
It seems
what's your plan?
Batwoman, it
Mom. Yes, Ryan. That's your baby girl shining, protecting you.
She was here the whole time.
Well done. Tried to ruin your daughter's life all over again. She knows that is insane.
2 adults, 3 children, another 12 suffered permanent injuries.
They have to arrest her after this.
Matt.
You don't.
Mary, my
You
love.
live with it every day.
It is true that, I mean, I think this is helping Alice more than anything. Mary, you will live with what you did every day because you are a compassionate and kind person. But it wasn't you. It wasn't her.
I had all the excuses. It wasn't me. The Joker made me do it. There's no escape from all the pain.
Okay, but like, how did the Joker make you do it? How wasn't it you? Was he drugging you? Did he have a gun to your head? Because either of those situations, you know, I think those are different to Mary's, because with a gun to your head, it still doesn't justify it, because, you know, you'd like to think that if someone had a gun to my head and was like, make a weapon of mass destruction, I would choose death. But no one knows what they're going to do in that situation at all. So in that, there would be some culpability to have. But if Mary's case, she was shot with a gun that altered her brain. It wasn't Mary, and I hate that Mary is going through this thinking these things apply to her, and I don't know why the show is implying that they do, because if they wanted to imply that that was Mary's choice, then things should have gone down differently. I know she wasn't 100% infected when she destroyed the cure, but she was like 99% infected, which is the same thing.
That I caused. My mind started.
But Alice needs to hear this.
I would see do the hard work. That I needed to accept responsibility for everything that I'd done.
Alice, please listen. Mary, my sweet, sweet child, it wasn't you.
How can I?
You were already going through this, and Alice has been ignoring it. Alice needs to hear this. Times 1,000.
You know, 1 minute, I think she's into me. Next minute, she's shutting me out.
Sophie, my dearest love, do you think maybe there's a little bit of stuff going on and Ryan hasn't had a moment to breathe, to think, and to figure out who she is and what she wants? Plus, is Marcus not... Did Marcus partly do that so that they'd think there was no one here and go into a trap?
I do.
Here you are.
Has Marcus done something to it?
Did you ever wonder where I was? How I
You
was
had
doing?
the resources
Did
to
you ever
discreetly
even
look
think
into
about me?
it.
Of course I thought about you. Child, I gave nothing to and you achieved all of this. I gave Marcus everything.
Doesn't make it okay.
Turned out.
Yes, but again, Marcus was zapped with the Joker's joy buzzer. So, you know, without that, we're going under the assumption that Marcus would be a stereotypically, potentially, you know, arrogant, bratish, rich person, but he would not be the sociopathic psychopath that he is. That, again, like, we can't blame child Marcus for adult Marcus's actions. Does that excuse adult Marcus? No. If we cannot fix what's wrong with him, he needs to be locked up.
Maybe the greatest thing I ever did for you
No.
was staying out of your life.
That's ridiculous and stupid and makes no sense. Because, are you saying she would have also been zapped by the Joker's fucking buzzer?
I told you to lay low.
I didn't listen.
Leave now, both of you.
You're not my keeper, and you're not my... anything.
No.
Sophie, there's more important things on right now. I mean, it's not more important than your relationship, but starting it.
Marcus has been in contact with Kiki Roulette.
Fucking hell. Wants to make sure the buzzer will never work. Use it on them.
Got it working again?
I'm not sure how much longer Marcus needs you alive anymore.
Oh lord.
Right back at you.
Of course.
I probably should have expected that.
Alice, please still listen to what she said, because it's not wrong. This is why people that have done things by their own volition, aka not Mary, if you don't do something to drastically alter them, whether it's zapping them with a joy buzzer or intensive therapy or proof that they're fucking remorseful, you don't just let them go on the streets. He's doing a brilliant job, but I do not like the bitch.
Hey, Batwoman. Remember when I told you I could take care of myself? I meant it.
Yes, team! Love them. I do love them. Yes, Mary. Oh. I'm so scared that Alice is gonna try and use it. I don't know if she would want to use it on herself particularly, but maybe.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to stop him.
It was Jada's job and she should have done it a long time ago.
I'm pretty sure
In a way that could have been as safe and as kind to him as possible.
Just like I failed you.
Yes, we do need to accept accountability.
Couldn't acknowledge the love that I had for you. So I signed a check.
Okay, so who's her dad? Can you tell her that so she can go and did he know? Did he know about her? Like, who is he? Tell me.
I didn't consider those feelings or they would have crushed me. Which is clearly what I do when I don't want to get hurt. I put up a wall.
Yeah, but that doesn't excuse you not looking for her for 25 years.
That's my life, Ryan. Don't let it be yours.
But that is good advice. Go find Sophie.
You didn't need need the suit to be a hero. I knew you'd get there, Lucas.
Thanks, Dad.
Exactly, he believed in you the whole time.
Couldn't have told me that sooner.
Proud of you.
Oh, he never thought he'd get to hear his dad say that.
You can come out now. I'm alone.
She should be going to prison again.
And if I don't take responsibility for all of the pain that I've caused and do the hard work to make amends, then I am no different than her.
Mary,
on a guilt trip, huh?
When look,
you're already... Mary was feeling that to begin with.
actually, as much of your stuff as I could fit. There's cash in here.
Mary, you're too
Enough
kind.
to get you far away from here.
Alice killed a lot of people and should be in prison. Or is she going to choose to stay and do the work?
Gotham just yet. I don't want to be here anymore.
Oh my goodness, that is huge.
I don't want to be a sociopath.
If this is genuine, she's finally fucking admitting it.
This is huge. I can help you.
If this is
What do
genuine,
you want?
I am so here for it. Oh, Alice.
Marcus.
You need to do the work.
I have a sister who needs it more.
Not... Oh, so close. I was so proud of her. And yet, still making the ultimate selfish choices when she did what she did to Mary. She's not apologised to Mary for what she did either. That is just glossed under the carpet and Mary is taking all of the guilt herself and Alice is giving Mary all of the guilt. Like, I'm sorry, no one will convince me that Mary... I mean, to be honest, I don't really think Mary was to blame at all for what happened. But I can also understand that if that was me, I think I would feel the guilt and feel that I was to blame regardless. But if you get brainwashed, it's not your fault, because unless you say, yes, please do brainwash me to be a killer, it isn't your fault. And the person that watches you be brainwashed and, you know, pushes you further down that line or signs you up for the brainwashing course is the one responsible, and that was Alice. Secondly, Marcus is, currently we do not have any other plans to stop him. A. B. For Marcus, from what they're saying, he was a normal, sweet boy. One day, somebody zapped him in the head, he became a psychopath. If we zap him, he can revert and then he has to deal with a lot of trauma. But in a way, similar to Mary, it was a simple kind of, something happened to him, boom, this happened. For Alice, it's a far more complicated psychological series of events. I do not blame Beth in the slightest for what has happened. It was initially a coping mechanism that then, the problem with Alice is there have been a lot of different instances where she could have made different choices and she didn't, where no one had altered her mind, where she felt herself start to change. So Alice wanting to not be Alice anymore, Alice wanting to not be a sociopath, Alice admitting that, I really respect, and I think that is an important step. But then her next step being, but I don't want to do any of the work, just zap me in the head. Alice's case is not as simple as that. It's not as cut and dry as that. There are other people who go through horrific abuse who don't become sociopathic killers. And I think Alice needs to do the work. As a viewer, if they just zap her in the head and then poof, she's a good guy, I won't feel like that's earned. Whereas someone like Marcus, when we hear about how he became this way, it's not like, you know, what Jada was saying, like, oh, I failed him and I didn't fail you. No, you failed him by not sending him to psychiatric facilities from when he was a child and, you know, getting him locked up before he could hurt anybody. That's when you failed him. It's not like Jada raised him and nothing happened to him. He was just born with his brain wired that way. In which case, I would be like, maybe Alice does deserve it more. And it's not even about who deserves it. It's just, right now, Marcus is actively terrorising the city. We have something that could not only stop him, but also save him. Or we have Alice, who has admitted she wants to be different and wants to do the work, and yet is like, yeah, but I don't actually want to have to repent for anything. If you can just zap me better. It's not how it works. And I'm pleased that Alice has reached this point, but I'm extremely frustrated that she's still hiding behind her selfishness. If the show zaps her in the head and it's magically she's Beth again, part of me will be glad because at least it's a new plotline for her. At least it's not just them letting a murderer wander around and being rolling their eyes at her every now and then. But it won't be the earned redemption or anti-hero arc she deserves. Or we deserve.
Can and can't do. I'm not your sidekick. It's not about that. Well, then if it's about you wanting to protect
Look
me,
at how she's
I'm not
dressed. I
your
have a
damn
feeling.
You don't have to.
She at this point, yes, Marcus has still I'm really happy for them. Yes, Marcus is still out there and a threat, but right now it's a bit calmer. They have this beat. We are moving fast, I see. But I'm so happy for them. You know, it's not like, there's nothing wrong with a quick first night stand, but like, they are two people that have been in each other's orbits for so long. That this is so earned, like they've worked their way towards this moment. They already have a connection that if you just met someone, you'd have after several dates, if not months. But they deserve this moment of happiness and peace. Having this represented is going to mean the world to so many people. It's how many straight sex scenes you get in shows. That was a very, very good episode. I'm a little frustrated in some places. I didn't like the narrative they've been going on, that is Mary is 100% responsible for everything that happened to her. Because she's not, and I could very easily argue that she is not even the least bit responsible for anything she did while she was Poison Mary. Now, I don't think that is something that she will ever understand, that she will ever fully believe, because she is such a good, kind person that knowing she, and having the memories and remembering choosing things, even if those are things you would never choose in your life. It's not like even, you know, just she got drunk and that brings out the truest side of you. Someone infected her with something that altered her perception of the world, altered her morality. Mary's response to that was to restrain herself, to make sure she did not hurt anybody. That is the only decision Mary made with regards to being Poison Mary. That was it. Mary does not hold any culpability for what happened after that. The person, one of our main characters who holds the most responsibility for that is Alice, who is now referring to herself as Mary's sister, and Mary is trying to help leave town, and Alice is being all like, oh no, I'm not going to lie to you, you did that. And I'm glad that Mary is being able to help Alice change and maybe see a path towards changing, but I'm not happy that it is done by Alice exploiting Mary's guilt and making Mary feel more guilty and using Mary for her own ends in so many ways. You know, it's almost like if Mary still feels guilty, then Alice can be like, yes, you were the same. I don't think this was the way to build up their relationship, in my opinion. If they wanted to get us to a point where Mary was more accepting of Alice, I would have far rather had it be that Alice didn't notice Mary was becoming Poison Ivy until it was too late, and maybe went along with her for the ride to try and look out for her, to try and make sure she didn't kill anyone along the way, and to try and keep her grounded in being Mary while the others found the cure. Or even if she thought, oh, you know, we don't need the cure, even if once it had happened, Alice was like, oh, well, that's great, we can be villainous sisters, but she still wanted to protect Mary from going over Mary's line. And then we get to this stage. That would be a place where I think their bond could be far truer. But Alice forced it to happen. If she had told them when she first spotted what was happening, we would have had the cure while Mary was still not Mary enough to say, my God, yes, give that to me right now. Instead, we had the cure when Mary was 99% Poison Mary, and it was too fucking late. Alice intentionally caused all of it. You know, without Alice, Mary would have been restrained still. And so even if she didn't want the cure, we knew Mary did in the first place. Mary wanted it, so we could have given it to her. And Alice, at the end of the last episode with Ryan, it seemed like she was taking a little bit of culpability. But this episode, she spent every scene with Mary, and not once did she express the slightest bit of sorrow for her part in what Mary did and what happened to Mary. She just acted like Mary was stupid for feeling guilt herself, even though it should have been the other way around, and that is frustrating to me. For one thing, I hate seeing my favourite character suffer. I hate seeing any character suffer, any good, kind, compassionate person suffer over something that really was out of their control. It makes me love her even more that she is carrying this guilt and that she wants to go to the wake and that she's feeling the pain. I'm scared they won't recognise her, though it was very dark, and when they wonder why Mary Hamilton was there, I don't know. But regardless of all of that, it makes me love her more because she isn't accepting that these good, kind people that love her are saying, but it wasn't your fault. I think it's hard with like someone like Luke, kind of looks like, oh, you gave it to him. But Mary, it wasn't your fault. You know, I feel like in that beat, Luke wasn't the most convincing. And I think that's something they all have to work through. But at the end of the day, it wasn't Mary's fault. No more so than anything Kane did when she thought she was other girl was Kate's fault. You know, when your mind is altered, even if your mind is consciously making the decisions, if someone else has changed the way your mind is wired, you know, like I say, if we get Marcus back to being himself without the sociopathness, he will be grappling with the exact same thing Mary is grappling with. But at the end of the day, I would also agree that it's not his fault because he was not himself. He lost himself. I mean, for him it will be even more traumatizing and more to deal with because he was so young when it happened. He hasn't been himself since he was a little kid. But for Alice to use Mary's pain in the way she is doing, I do agree that Alice cares about Mary. I am not trying to say she doesn't, you know, but I do still think the person Alice cares about most is Alice. And maybe that's beginning to change, but I feel like this show is meant to leave me thinking, oh, aren't they sweet? And they're not. And even at this point, Alice is using Mary again because she's trying to put Mary will become at odds with Ryan and the team. She wants Mary to steal the buzzer, or, you know, they're not going to agree to it. Also, we have no fucking guarantee it works that way. Alice isn't a sociopath in the way that Marcus is, as in that it wasn't done to her artificially. It happened very slowly and over time. And we have seen instances of that not being all the way true. The fact that she does care about Mary. I think if we gave Alice the joy buzzer, it wouldn't work. It might make her worse, let's be honest. It might get rid of any shreds of Beth that are left. So I really do hope that the next episode is Mary being like, I will help you, but I'm not going to give you the joy buzzer. But what Alice is trying to do is appeal to Mary, appeal to her vulnerabilities after everything that's happened to her, appeal to this fledgling connection of sisterhood that they have somehow. I still don't buy it 100%, but they have, and use it. It's so selfish yet again. And okay, maybe that's true to Alice, but it wasn't like the music and the way the scene was framed, it wasn't done in a way that we'd be like, oh, Alice. We were meant to be like, oh. And I'm fucking frustrated. The fact that Alice was like, I want to change. I don't want this to be me anymore. I was gonna be so like, she's here to do the work. I was ready to be like, finally, I'm gonna forget my irritation. And then she did that. So I'm freaking frustrated. And Mary's the thing about, if I don't do the work, then I will become her. Now, Mary could never be her because the situations are very, very different. The Joker woman, you know, unless she was brainwashed into helping the Joker, there's no comparison. The situations are all very different. My heart is broken for Mary, and I hate that she is just accepting everything Alice says as though everything Alice says is true and not delusion most of the time. So then we have everybody else. Sophie, I love Sophie, and I fully respect her for being like, Ryan, are we doing this or not? Tell me. But I also do think that she needs to acknowledge that their situation isn't black and white and easy, that like there's a fucking lot going on. And yes, I do think Ryan was starting to fall for Sophie before things got this complicated, so it maybe could be a nice, easy, yes, I want to be with you. But I also think it's okay to give someone a beat. And, you know, even if you need to say, look, I'm not waiting, like, I mean, if you love someone, you could wait for them a bit until things are marginally calmer. And even though, yes, they're always having big bad issues around, they do seem to, you know, every few months they get a break. During the hiatus, things calm down a bit, and then we get back into the crazy. I do think she was pushing a little hard, or it wasn't even so much the pushing, because I think it's kind of being like, I'm here for you, I want to be with you, but it was kind of the attitude of, God, Ryan, why haven't you dealt with it already? It was kind of like, Sophie, calm down, give her a chance. But I am glad that she took Jada's advice, and the scene at the end was very, very special. I am not wildly a fan of any kind of sex scene, in any show. I mean, that was fine. There was nothing graphic about it. So, like, that one, I mean, the Game of Thrones style sex scenes, like, they happen, and I'm just kind of like, did we need that? Okay, let's go. Like, I'm not, like, anti them, but I just don't personally think they add much to what's going on. I think if a character kisses near a bed, falls onto the bed, that is enough. This kind of one is the kind of one that I like the most, because you know what happened, but it also wasn't awkward. And I also think it's really special because I know how many shows I've watched where straight couples get to have a sex scene of that nature where, you know, they get that much unclothed and you know what's going down. And I think it was really important representation for this show. It's not the first time the show has done it either, but I think it was really special, and it's going to have made a lot of people really happy, so that makes me happy. But I am happy just that they're together, that the kissing, that Ryan was finally like, you don't have to keep pushing, I'm here. I'm so excited to watch their relationship blossom. I really, really am. For Luke and his dad, I'm still scared slightly that Marcus messed with the chip, because them getting it back was too easy. What put my mind slightly at ease is that plot-wise, we then had the big confrontation, and Ryan and Sophie being like, I can take care of myself and all that kind of thing, that maybe that was just the plot device that got us into the room for that, hopefully. And for Luke to kind of have the AI be like, yeah, I'm proud of you, I knew you could do it. You know, again, the thing that frustrated me a couple of episodes ago is no longer doing, which is good, was Luke being like, I'm not going to let you hold me back. And I was like, he's not doing that. I think Luke has had a bumpy ride, and I think he and Mary have a lot to work through, in the sense that I know why he didn't listen to her. I know it's because he was dealing with a lot of shit, but he didn't listen to her. He acted like her advice didn't matter, as though she didn't have a voice on the team. And then, I mean, admittedly, the stuff she did wasn't her fault. But again, I think it's one thing logically knowing it wasn't somebody else's fault, and it's another thing to have seen with your own eyes someone you care about do something crappy to you. Even if you know that wasn't actually them, you still have to kind of, your brain and your heart need to get on the same page. Now, Jada this episode, in some ways, I loved it. It was a good development that we learned that her intention was that Ryan would have a loving family and enough money to have a comfortable, happy, secure life. But the idea that Jada Jet never once had someone discreetly look into it, not even once her husband was dead, so it didn't even matter if it all came out, because it would be a scandal she could weather, is a little, it doesn't, I mean, it makes it better. The situation is better than it was, but I still think she has a lot to answer to. And again, she's human, she's fallible. I don't think, like, shame, throw her off the bridge or anything, but it doesn't make it all magically okay. And, you know, I think the writing kind of missed the mark slightly with the, like, whole dramatic revelation of, but you are everything, even though I gave you nothing. And he is a sociopath, even though I gave him everything, because we've established that Marcus is a sociopath because he got zapped in the head with the Joker's buzzer. That is the only reason he is a sociopath. It's not like well, there were some worrying signs before that, but then the buzzer took 100% sweet, lovely child, sociopath, buzzer. So that didn't quite line up. And it's such a stupid thing to say as well, because that's really going to have helped all those. And again, it's that thing when someone's like, oh, I know you've suffered a lot, but look at the strong, amazing person you've become. That doesn't make the suffering okay. It doesn't mean you're like, I'm so glad I suffered. It means a person is inspirational, and you can be proud of them, and you can love them, and you can think, oh my god, you deserve every good thing that you get, thousandfold. But it doesn't mean that, oh, it's okay that you suffered miserably because look at you now. I just think that line was kind of like, Jada's point was here. What she said was, yeah, it wasn't the best. But also I think Ryan, I don't think, took it as being like, woo, everything you said is great, Mum, let's hug. Can Jada just tell her who the fuck her father is? One thing that I think is stupid, okay, it's not stupid because its emotions are complex and families are thing, but it's weird writing, is that, has Ryan even asked Jada once who her father is? Maybe she did it in the very first times they were connecting, but you'd ask who he is. I would want to know who he is, and I would want to know if he knew about me. Because, okay, I wouldn't be feeling the most disposed. I mean, in general, finding out you were conceived in an affair would kind of suck. But if I'd want to know the circumstances of why she was having the affair. Was she happy in her marriage? Was it like, oh, I'm bored and I had something else? Was it that she'd only just got with him for appearances? Did she love her husband? I would want to know all of that because it would be who I was. But most especially, I would want to know who my father was, and did he know I existed? You know, was it like he was like, I'll get an abortion, and she was like, oh, I will, and then she had the baby and gave it to me, etc. Or did she just say, we're breaking up now, and he said, okay, I'm very sad now, and left, and didn't even know there was a baby? Because those questions in your head, yes, I do believe children and their mothers have that bond because your mother carries you, but even you can be mothers without that. Fathers are also a big part of the life, and I think for Ryan the bond is more there because she had a mother in her life who died, and all she thought she knew was that her mother called her Ryan Wilder before she died, etc. And for Ryan, mothers are a bigger part of her life than fathers, but she'd still want to know and would still be asking. So if she doesn't start asking soon, I'd rather it just be Jada. Like, I know, I'm not going to get into it now. To my father's side of the family, his parents, it's very, very messy, but like I have like 10 plus aunts and uncles, half aunts and uncles, but his mother had one other child, and I don't know overly much about them, but I do know that she refused to ever say who the father was, and it caused a huge falling out between them. They didn't speak for a very long time until my grandma nearly died. Ryan would ask, And Jada may well say, I'm not going to tell you, but she would ask, and it would burn, it would eat her alive. You would be looking through, especially a public figure like Jada Jett, who I assume, given that she had $2 million, was a public figure back then, you would be looking through, like, who was she photographed with? Were there rumours at the time? You know, who was she seen with? Did she have a bodyguard? Did she have a friend? Who was it? And then who suddenly stopped being in the picture around the time I was conceived? That would so be what you'd look into. So I do need that to be something they bring up sooner rather than later. But Jada finding out she's Batwoman is everything. At least she's going to stop attacking her. Ideally, I would like Jada to go on the news and retract her statement. It would be a big deal if she went in there and said, I've actually found out that they were stolen from Batman's archives, and Batwoman has been doing everything she could to get them back and preserve and stop panic. And my information was led to me by someone that was trying to cause trouble and to shake the city's trust in Batwoman, but I have all the faith and trust in Batwoman. That would be something she would do, because it would potentially be an embarrassment to her to have to go back there and retract her statement, but she should fricking do it. And she shouldn't say about Marcus. And to be honest, put on the news. Marcus, you know, when he was a child, this thing happened to him, and there is potentially a way to save him, and then it wouldn't be his fault. And, you know, even put on the news, he has the potential to kill people, even if you don't want to say and he has killed people. Jada has a lot to answer for, not only in how she treated Ryan, but in the fact that she is responsible for the people Marcus killed just as much as he is, in the same way that Alice is responsible for a lot of the stuff, for everything Mary did while she was poisoning Mary. So yes, this is a good episode. It wasn't quite as good as the last one. It's left me kind of frustrated in a few places, but we'll see where things go. A reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon, and thank you so much for watching.